Finally tonight here, we reported on the 10 millionth Mustang last week, made in America. Well, tonight, proof that you really should listen to your third grade teacher.
Ford sold 22,000 Mustangs on the very first day it went on sale. Within its first 12 months, that number reached about 417,000. Within 2 years, Ford had sold nearly 1 million. Ford built all of that on a car developed in a record 18 months, using a chassis borrowed from a car nobody thought was exciting at all. This is the story of how a small team turned a compromise into one of the most successful car launches in American history.
Coming April 17th, the unexpected, the new Ford Mustang.
Stick around because the Mustang's real breakthrough wasn't the styling. It was what Ford refused to build from scratch. Chapter 1: Why Ford Needed the Mustang. By the early 1960s, millions of baby boomers were about to buy their first car, and most of what Detroit offered them was practical, predictable, and forgettable. European sports cars looked exciting. They also cost more than most young buyers could spend.
And cars would come and go, and of course, in 1966, the Mustang was the hot car.
Ford saw a gap nobody had filled. A stylish, affordable car built for people who wanted their car to say something about them. Lee Iacocca, general manager of the Ford division, believed the company didn't need another sedan. He pushed for a sporty, four-seat car, loaded with options, priced under $2,500. Ford had just lost hundreds of millions of dollars on the Edsel a few years earlier. Iacocca spent months convincing Ford's leadership that the company needed a car like this, and the idea faced real skepticism before Henry Ford II finally approved it. The Edsel's failure wasn't a small setback. It was the kind of loss that made an entire company cautious for years afterward. Proposing another unproven concept car so soon after that disaster took real conviction, especially from an executive who hadn't yet run the whole company. Iacocca kept refining the pitch anyway, until Ford finally said yes. Chapter 2: The team behind the car. One executive's vision wasn't enough to build a car. Iacocca pushed the project forward. Donald Frey, as chief engineer, ran the technical side and delivered the finished car in 18 months, a record for Ford at the time. The design didn't come from a single studio handed the assignment. Ford ran an internal competition, pitting its Ford, Lincoln Mercury, and Advanced studios against each other, each team building a full-scale clay model in about 2 weeks. Joe Oros led the winning team, working with designers L. David Ash, Gail Halderman, and John Foster. Halderman's original sketch, drawn at his own kitchen table late at night while working on an unrelated project, became the starting point for the design that won. Chapter 3: From Concept to Prototype. Before the production Mustang existed, there was a very different car wearing the same name. In 1962, Ford showed the Mustang 1, a 2-seat concept with an aluminum body and a mid-mounted engine, styled after European racing cars. It looked fast standing still and drew attention everywhere it went. It also wasn't something Ford could sell to families. Engineers knew a specialized 2-seat sports car would cost too much to build at volume. Ford kept the aggressive styling and the sporty spirit, then rebuilt the idea around a practical 4-seat body that could actually reach a mass market. Chapter 4: Engineering the Mustang. This decision may have saved the entire project. Building an all-new car from the ground up would have cost Ford millions and taken years it didn't have. Instead, engineers looked at a car already sitting in Ford showrooms, the Falcon. Not glamorous, not exciting, but a platform the company already understood completely. Ford reused the Falcon's chassis, suspension, steering, and much of the drivetrain, freeing engineers to focus almost entirely on a new body instead of reinventing mechanical systems from zero. That decision was the reason the Mustang could go from approval to production floor in 18 months. On paper, the Mustang and the Falcon shared a great deal. Wrapped in its new body, the Mustang didn't feel like a Falcon in any way a customer would notice. Some engineers inside Ford worried the shortcut would show. A car built this fast, on borrowed mechanical parts, risked feeling exactly like what it technically was, a Falcon underneath a new shape. It didn't turn out that way. The proportions, the long hood, the short rear deck, all of it was different enough that almost nobody cross-shopping a Mustang ever thought to compare it to the car it was built on. Chapter 5. Preparing the factories. Designing the car was half the job. Building thousands of them, without slowing the rest of Ford's production, was the other half. Existing plants had to be retooled before a single customer car could leave the line. Work began at Dearborn, Michigan, where engineers installed new tooling and ran pilot cars through the line to catch problems before full production started. As demand grew, Ford added production at San Jose, California, and Metuchen, New Jersey. The first Mustang rolled off the line on March 9, 1964, more than a month before the public launch. The process had already been rehearsed enough times that Ford could launch at a pace few competitors could match. Chapter 6. How the Mustang was built. Every Mustang started as sheets of flat steel, fed into stamping presses that turned them into doors, fenders, floor sections, and the long hood that defined the car's silhouette. Each panel was inspected before moving forward, because a small flaw at this stage could throw off the fit of the entire body later. From there, the panels moved to the body shop, welded into a single shell, then into the paint department, cleaned, treated against corrosion, primed, sprayed, and baked into a finish built to last for years, not months. Engines were built on a separate line. Whether it was the base inline-six or one of the optional V8s, each engine went through factory quality checks before it ever reached the assembly floor. Transmissions and rear axles moved down their own lines in parallel, timed to arrive exactly when needed. Then came the marriage, the finished body lowered onto the completed chassis and drivetrain. That was the moment a stamped shell became an actual automobile, the point where two separate production lines that had never touched each other finally became one car. Workers installed the wiring, dashboard, seats, glass, trim, and badges. Fluids went in. Electrical systems were checked. Before any Mustang left the factory, it went through inspection, alignment, brake testing, and a full road evaluation. Only then was it cleared for a dealership. Chapter 7. Built to order. The Mustang's real advantage wasn't just what it looked like. It was how many different cars it could become. The base engine was a 170 cubic inch inline-six, producing 101 horsepower. Buyers who wanted more could step up to a 260 cubic inch V8 at 164 horsepower or a 289 cubic inch V8 at 210. Manual or automatic, hardtop or convertible, with the fastback arriving soon after launch. Paint colors, interior trims, wheel designs, and factory options meant almost no two Mustangs on the road looked identical. Customers weren't just buying a car, they were building one. Chapter 8. Launch Day. On April 14, 1964, Ford unveiled the Mustang to the press. 3 days later, on April 17th, it went on sale to the public at the same moment it debuted at the New York World's Fair. This wasn't a quiet product launch. Television, magazines, newspapers, and dealership floors carried Mustang advertising everywhere at once. Visitors rode through Ford's Magic Skyway attraction in specially prepared Mustang convertibles, designed with Walt Disney's team. Nearly 15 million people experienced the car that way before the fair closed. Dealerships across the country held launch events of their own, all timed to the same day. According to Mustang lore, one buyer in Texas even slept inside a Ford showroom until his check cleared, just to make sure nobody else drove his Mustang home first. Ford received around 22,000 Mustang orders on the first day, about 417,000 within the first year. Less than 2 years later, Ford celebrated its 1 millionth Mustang. The Mustang created an entirely new category of car, the pony car, and rivals like the Camaro, the Firebird, and the Challenger spent the rest of the decade chasing it. What the Mustang teaches you. Lesson 1. You don't have to build everything new to build something new. The Mustang's styling was original. Its underlying platform wasn't. Ford spent its engineering time and budget where it actually mattered to the customer and borrowed everything else. Lesson 2. Internal competition can outperform a single assigned team. Ford didn't hand the Mustang's design to one studio. It made several studios compete on the same brief, in the same short window, and let the strongest idea win, regardless of which team it came from. Lesson 3. A launch is a system, not an event. The Mustang's 22,000-unit first day wasn't luck. It was a car already sitting in dealerships nationwide, a marketing campaign timed to the hour, and a factory that had already rehearsed full production before a single customer walked in. The Mustang wasn't remarkable because Ford invented something from nothing. It was remarkable because Ford knew exactly which parts of the car were worth reinventing and which parts were better left alone.